Hola, chicas. Welcome to Encuentras, Your Voice podcast, showcasing Latinas as they share their journey from ancestry to authenticity, discovering that aha moment of self-love in the cultura and the thriving success that follows. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, here with you every Wednesday at 5 p.m., sunny California Pacific time, and reveling as we keep diving into our Hispanic Heritage Month series with our vibrant guests every week. Full-length conversations that will have you cheering for our comunidad. It is a month filled with stories that speak of the adventures and challenges of life here. That single aha moment that changed their life forever, illuminating the importance and impact of the Hispanic and Latina community in our society. We come together to champion the Latina visionaries, changemakers, and leaders who share their stories to create space for us to discover our own journey. Because even when we feel we have our days figured out, we can hear a new prompt that changes our lives forever. Today's episode is a perfect example of self-discovery in the most challenging unknown here in the U.S., the Colorado Rockies. Here, worlds away from the conformity of Guatemala City, our guest, Gabriela Hydle, discovered freedom, safety, community, and ultimately, her true self. Raised in a Puritan mindset that dismissed the indigenous population of the city and country, Gabriela was disconnected from her Mayan indigenous roots, leaving her for a loss. The bubble sheltered her from the real threat of violence beyond her doors and defined a false sense of safety. Fast forward to now, Gabriela has discovered what safety truly means as she careens down the paths of the steep Colorado Rockies. With a mountain biking group Comba, Gabriela faced her fears and unknowns in a community that literally has her back, leading to a life she could never have imagined growing up in the depths of Guatemala City. Now she strives to build community for all people feeling trapped in a world that doesn't honor who they are based on the color of their skin, language, or heritage. And at the end of the episode, you'll hear how deeply intimate and intentional Gabriela has set her mind to heal the wounds of the past. This one takes you through all the emotions, laughter and tears to illuminate the true feelings of self-discovery, forgiveness, and healing. The perfect journey to change your life forever. So sit back, breathe deep, and get set to learn from Gabriela Hydle as she honors her journey from her true ancestry of an indigenous Mayan Guatemalan woman to newfound authenticity as a fearless community builder. Welcome to Encuentras, Your Voice podcast, Gabriela. We made it happen. So happy to have you here, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here, Consuelo, and everyone.
As we always do for our listeners and the value of this community, we archive our guests' diaspora for coming from their country, their homeland, here to the U.S. So we'd love to hear your own story on that.
Well, hi, everyone. Sakir, I am an indigenous Mayan Guatemalan woman. I grew up in the city of Guatemala. Unfortunately, I was not given the opportunity to really experience my culture and learn about my culture. It was very shock. So it's very interesting because coming to the U.S. is when I finally realized, or I started learning who I am really and where I come from. And I started bringing I would have packed Guatemala with me to bring to the U.S. It has been a wonderful story to discover.
Beautiful. Is there a specific people associated?
Acachiquel, because of the area where I was born. At this point, everyone in Tocha, like the melting pot,
Mm-hmm.
So that differentiation that we do it does not exist anymore. I will say pretty much anywhere, but especially in Guatemala, that is such a small country. It's the size of Tennessee. Right now, well, last time I checked, with 12 million people.
Yeah, very difficult to stay within just the original peoples, but a fabulous journey in learning and discovering your roots. And it helps explain a lot of things personally. When we have parts of our personalities that you look around and you're like, where does this come from? We need to find out, where does this come from? Why do I feel this? Why do I love this? Yeah. So how old were you when you came?
I was 27. I am turning 44 like in 2 weeks.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, it has been a big, big, big journey. I came to California, actually. My husband is from there. We met when I was traveling, and then we married in Guatemala. We did all the walking through the aisle in a Catholic church thing
Yeah.
in Guatemala, and I went to California. And then when my son was born, we decided to move to Colorado.
Ah, so you were in California and then moved to Colorado to raise him. So what was your life like in Guatemala? Because I know from talking to you, there's a big flip between being raised in Guatemala, where you were in Guatemala City, no?
Totally.
And where you are now in Colorado.
Totally. So Guatemala, for people that doesn't know, was an internal war for 34 years. When I was like teenager, they made the peace agreement. Even though Guatemala is surrounded with so many outdoor beauty and so much nature to go anywhere, it was very unsafe. As a matter of fact, it was a good reminder. I just read a book called Inmigrante. I can show you the book later, but this person is 4 years older than me, and he was living 5 hours away from the city. And his story is completely different to the one I grew up. My story was going from home to school to home, and that was it. Especially because my school was downtown, and that's where everything happened. If there were strikes, one of the places, like the government places, was across the street from my school. So we saw the strikes every day. But the interesting part is that you didn't know where those strikes were about. Like, you saw the people there with signs, but nobody was interested to see. And the people who was always doing these strikes were indigenous. So it's like all of these things that I started like kind of like, why we'll never learn that? We were right there, and it would have either benefit us or affect all of us.
No one would explain it to you or teach you the purpose of it. Wow. That's interesting that there was actual safety also associated with not wandering off into nature, which I don't think a lot of people can appreciate, that this was so recent, in a lifetime. So did you come to California, and which is very much filled with nature? Did you just go, wow?
Yes. And the first, yes and no, because the first
Yes and no.
took me camping. I was like, we don't have a shower. We don't have a...
I hear you. I am not a camping girl either. I'm a city girl too.
We were camping in a Mammoth, and the temperature dropped almost to 30 degrees.
Oh,
and I think he forgot to check the temperatures. I don't think, even though I was surrounded by beauty, I was not appreciative of it because I was never very exposed to it. I was like, yeah, let's go and make it fun. Let's take the picture that you share to make it look cool kind of thing. But I don't think I was more interested on like the city part of LA. This is wonderful. We can go and party here. We can go do that. So it took me a long time. Things started changing when I started working in a Waldorf school. One of the way that they teach kids is by being outside or just being with nature, and the chickens are there. So I think that's when it sparked the thing, but it wasn't until I moved to Colorado.
What opened up in you when you hit Colorado?
Colorado has many opportunities to do everything you want to do. Unfortunately, in both places, California, the area where I live, and Guatemala, traffic is horrendous. we live like at 30 minutes from Santa Monica, but driving to Santa Monica on a Saturday took us 2 hours. So Colorado had more accessibility to it. But of course, took me a while. Like then I moved to Colorado and then winter comes and I am like miserable. I'm like, you're like stuck in my house to go anywhere because that means putting all this. And I think always freak me out. I'm like, what if I have to change a diaper when we are in the middle of the mountain and it's super cold? In the summer, we spend a lot of time outside because I quit my job. So I was a stay-home mom. So we were always outside until winter. Then winter, I literally hibernate. But then my daughter was born in 2020. She was born 3 days before lockdown. So it was the four of us against the pandemic kind of thing. So then I discovered mountain bike and that literally like tortilla, just like, boop. And I love mountain biking. I love the community. I love the empowerment. I love that was woman empowering woman. That I have never found that community, you know. So usually, unfortunately and sadly, sometimes we don't help each other. So when you finally find that group that you're like, come over, you fell from the bike, let me pull you back. We will do it. It changed totally everything.
That speaks a lot to one, you're coming out of the pandemic and probably after 2 years, just like yearning to get back with people and just be part of the community that we all were raised in. Also, it's in the DNA. It's very difficult to be isolated. You're a city girl. You're not a mountain biker. Why mountain biking? What got you on a bike?
They got me on a bus.
So you would do anything to be part of community. Whatever the community was, you were going to join.
Because I went to an herbalism class and I am like, I love herbalism and I have a bunch of herbs in my garden. I studied for 6 months to be a permaculturist. So I have been in other communities. You know what I mean? Like I have been in the herbalism community and the permaculture community and the Waldorf community. In Colorado, not too much because I have a stay home, but I don't know. I feel was just knowing that I was capable of doing something that I thought and I believe I was not capable of. There was literally a button that was like, Gabriela, you can do it. Like, believe in yourself. And I remember every time I fell, I think if I would have asked the teachers right now, they would have laughed because every time I fell, they're like, are you okay? And I would have been like, in 2 seconds, I'm okay. Let's keep going. Wow, that one hurts. But I didn't care. Like, I just wanted to be there. And like I said, like literally the empowerment. So I have one of the teachers behind me because I used to be the sweeper. I used to be the last one on the right.
Aww.
And she would have been like, Gabriela, switch the
gears.
The gears, thank you. Switch the gear, guys. So that is like having someone right here, not judging you, not telling you, oh my gosh, you were not able to do that. Now we are stuck here. Now we have to walk. No, they never say anything.
Wow.
They even say when you say, I'm sorry, they're like, don't say I'm sorry. Say, I am sexy. So you just get into like, okay.
I love these women.
Yeah. And just that, it changed the cassette. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then the tricky part came when winter came because I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? And I decided to go biking a fat tire. I would have never thought about it. Like fat tire for snow to bike in the snow.
Right.
I was like, no. And then I want to start skiing. And my husband, like, I think when I told I want to start skiing, my husband, if he was drinking coffee, imagine what he was like, you want to do what?
Just spray.
Yeah, like, I want to ski.
Wow.
So because of mountain biking, I got on a scholarship to go to Montana last year. And it was downhill and I needed to go in a chairlift. Heights freak me out. Height situation that I don't have control. Now, next step. Now, what comes next? So I just want to keep going further, you know.
Wow. This is a beautiful story of empowerment, of women empowering each other. But I really love the visual that you offer in being with the sweeper to make sure everyone's okay, that literally someone has your back. Literally, they are making sure that you make it. And how often in just regular life as women do we hesitate in making those big decisions, in taking those risks? Because we don't have someone who has our back, who's whispering to us, you can do it, do this instead, change gears. Oh, it's a beautiful analogy. I just love it. And this is why you focused this as no longer just a hobby for you. This is something that you're trying to develop. So speak more to that.
So because of that, so I started mountain biking and then I did downhill.
If anyone has not seen the Rockies, these are insane mountains that you chose to ski down.
Well, don't go too far away. I remember going to chairlift, and every time I came out of the chairlift, I fell 3 times, 4 times. That the guy that is kind of like in the little cabin, making sure that nobody fall or he has to stop the chairlift, is there watching me. The first time I was able to come up standing, he came out of the thing, and I was like, yeah, that's what I did. So I feel like by having the attitude of, yes, I will fall, but yes, I have all the tools to stand up. You emanate that and people see it in you. And I feel like that might have been what inspired the guy to come out. It depends on what you believe about yourself. And it's hard finding that. It's like so hard finding that, because at the time that you find who you are, you don't care if you fell 100 times to do it one time. But you did it. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing about all of this sport is what you have to focus. In the time that you start doubting about yourself, guess what? You fall. Go. I like how, in this case, mountain biking applies to life, because they always said, there is a rock. Don't look at the rock. If you look at the rock, you're going to go and smack your face against the rock. Look ahead of you. So applies to life. I'm like, there is obstacles every day, all the time. You cannot control nothing. But what are you willing to do? And of course, there is times that I'm looking at the rock, and then I got a ticket to do a gravel race, and it's 30 miles. I have never done 30 miles. And it's in the middle of winter. It's called Mayan Winter Rally. And everyone is telling me, like, don't do the race tomorrow. It's going to be too cold. It's going to be snow. And I said, you know what? I will get the ticket, because if I don't get the ticket, I will lose it. And I will do it until I cannot do it anymore. And when I cannot do it anymore, I can call my husband and he will come and pick me up, and there will not be judgment. But I finish it. And when I made it back to the finish line, I am like, the only place that didn't have mud was under my glass. Everything had mud. And I think when you realize that you don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah. Which again, that is a completely different aspect. First of all, congratulations on all the accolades. You can visually, even though this is audio right now, we can imagine these reaches. You are literally climbing the mountain, like literally, and getting over fears that maybe you knew you had, and you were overcoming them one by one with this very self-empowering attitude that you carry. You must have been born with this, but it does get fueled by the women around you that support you in it, and people who validate who you are and what you're trying to achieve. Those are 2 huge life lessons that will definitely be in the Pod Club episode of you. It's just like, be aware of other people and what they're trying to achieve and see them, right? Like, it goes a long way for validation when someone sees you and verbally can communicate to everyone else who may not have mentioned it or may not think it's a big deal, are taking it for granted. It's like, no, hard pause. Look what she's doing. Because we don't even want to do that for ourselves, right? We don't necessarily sit there and talk about it ourselves, bring attention to ourselves, which I think can be cultural, can be how we were raised. sin vergüenza. Don't ask for so much attention. Don't do things that bring attention to you.
Totally. I was just speaking with someone today. She's going to Guatemala and she's going to interview women in Guatemala. And I said, I would like to sit with you to see how we can put these questions for these women to understand that they are valuable and what they do is important, because I bet they do not know that. And nobody has ever told them that. Because I grew up in a very macho culture. Like you just say, Consuelo, people is not aware. They are not going to guess. Nobody guessed. The biggest tool you have in you is your voice. Use it.
Encuentras your voice, people. Find it. Because nobody, my husband says it all the time. He's like, how is it that you can find people so easily to be on the podcast? I was like, do you think anyone on every day hands a microphone to a Latina woman and says, what do you have to say? Are you kidding? How many generations of women should we go back? I wish I could do this 5 times a day to catch up with the women who never had the opportunity to share their story, their voice, their passions, their beliefs in true authenticity. So yes, our voice, our stories, everything is so valuable, not only for our own healing, our own sense of worth, our value, but also to each other. I'm sure someone listening to this, Gabriela, will be feeling like understood.
Took me like 8 years to find my space when I went to the
right.
Oh my, this is not my culture. This is not my food. This is not my people. What do I do here?
Yeah.
And I was determined to learn English. And the funny story, and I always bring it up too, but the first class I ever went to a community college was accent reduction. Of course, I failed.
I'm not sure how I feel about this class, but okay.
You'll see my mindset at that time.
Yeah.
My mindset. I was like, I want to fit into this space.
Yeah.
And then my friends like, who puts a class like that? I'm like,
yeah, thank you.
I don't know. I was like, well, let's join the class.
Okay.
But that was my mindset. I want to belong here. Now I belong without being able to speak perfect English, because what? I make this space special because of who am I and what I have. I think when I realized that, I was like, I am making my accent stronger.
That is very powerful to be saying generation after generation, because that happened for my mother, happened to me as a kid. And it continues to happen because in a very sad human way, we still judge. We still try and be more powerful than another. And until that goes away, until we have just human kindness, you're, as someone who comes here or is first gen and is trying to develop that cultural identity and the personal identity, that's always going to be part of the mix. And coming through the other side, which is what this podcast is all about, hearing the journey to coming to that point of, no, I love myself. I love who I am. I love what I come from. And I'm bringing that as an important piece into the community, into society, and into the generational impact. That's so beautiful and so needed. You've spoken often about events that you hold. What are the events and what's your purpose, your mission behind having these events?
I started promoting bike rides to Guatemala because I was kind of collaborating with a nonprofit who takes people to Guatemala, among many other places. And that was another wake-up call, because I needed to put the event and I needed to find the place if I was going to raffle things. And I did knock like 200 doors to get one prize to raffle. Little by little, the first event, I think I have like 8 people, including my family. And I was like, ugh. And my husband said, any experience is a good experience. Doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, 3, 8. In my 2 last events, I have more than 100 people.
Wow. What do you miss about being home in Guatemala?
I miss what I never took advantage of. I miss not being able to walk into someone's house and be like, hey, can I sit here and can we share a meal? I miss that I didn't learn about the difference in the Guatemalan clothes. Let's say we were in Guatemala in the US, each state would have a different clothing. And the clothes has a story on it. I miss that I didn't learn the Mayan language. I spoke it, but it's never too late. And I feel like whenever I get the chance, I will want to learn more about it. I miss that I never spoke out to give some of these indigenous people the right, like to make them feel worth it. And I feel like it wasn't something that I did on purpose. It was something, the circle, is passed on, is what you grow up, is what you see. And that's what I'm making sure my kids understand, that we are all equal. There is nobody above us. There is nobody below us. We, each of us, have many gifts, and each of us are important and special in this world. So that's what I miss. I miss that every time I get the chance to see a Guatemalan, mostly has been Guatemalan women, they come to Colorado. I apologize to them. I said, I want to be respectful. I just want you to know that I am carrying all this guilt of things I didn't do or I didn't spoke. And I want to apologize to you to hopefully spread it.
Oh, God, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like you said, you don't know until you know. You have life lessons. But again, you are not one to ever stop, it seems. So you have lots of life opportunity to interact and be part of and learn and join in their community, right? For our listeners, when it comes to everything you've expressed so genuinely, we see the tears welling up, and I love that, in that we've touched a really valuable place in your heart. What would you want to express to them about Guatemala? Someone who's never been, someone who's thinking of going, you say, yes, go. And what would you encourage them to keep in their heart going there?
First of all, I will say, grab a book, get some history, try not to show up into a place without knowing the history of it. It's too easy to walk into the front door and be like, I'm here, but it's more to be like, I'm here to learn from you, be respectful. There is a lot of Mayan ceremonies happening everywhere. Know that the flavors that you will encounter are something that you might have never tasted before, because we unfortunately don't find Guatemalan restaurants here. So be aware of closing your eyes and taking the time, knowing that these people might not even getting paid what you get paid in a week, to be able to serve or bring their traditions to you. I apologize for the word serve. I don't think that's a right word. But bring traditions to
Provide, you.
And know that we are in a very fortunate country. We have too many things that we take for granted, and they might not have the slightly opportunity. So be kind and know that it's literally, if you would have sit in a park in a town, but you will see so many people walking with a traditional Mayan clothing. But if you pay attention and if you have a book, you will get to know where they're coming from, because it depends. Mostly the men have stopped wearing most of the Guatemalan clothes. One time I went, and the thread that they used to put on their clothes is kind of like gold. And it was like a magical, because the woman shine with the sun. Again, I wish I would have been in the mindset I am right now, but oh well. But even though I wasn't, I just saw this woman walking and they shine. It was so beautiful. There is volcano, one side, white sand, dark sand. There is the Garifunas, who are the people who came from Africa. You will find so many food. You will find so many culture. You will find so much music. Just go with your senses open, willing to try.
Wow. Oh, it sounds like such a soulful place. Like it's going to affect you to such a depth if you, like you say, go in with a sense of humility rather than a sense of consumerism, which is really difficult. That's something very in keeping with tomorrow's episode with Fabiola Santiago, who's also indigenous. And she said the exact same thing when it comes to visiting Oaxaca.
Mm-hmm.
She's traveled with a sense, if you're invited in, that you're a guest, you're going as a guest to learn and appreciate. Oh, it sounds so beautiful. And again, we know how the opportunity to even go to Guatemala has been not very available to most at any given time. So the beauty of that soulful experience is a privilege in and of itself. What do you think is something that is strong about you that we would never guess? Like we would never guess, even though we think you would probably do anything. Is there something about you that nobody would expect from you?
Cool. Okay. I have had 2 home births.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
I was the woman putting the placenta in the garden. I don't have any medicines in my house. I take care of my family with herbs. I am vegan, totally vegan. I was raw vegan for a while. And I sang in a choir.
Oh my God. Angel drop from the earth. You are such a soul sister. Oh, you're getting me to tear up now. Oh my God. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. The beauty of living and healing from nature, from the earth. And I love that this is not a trend for you. This is just who you are. What are your hopes? If you were to walk through a portal, what would you hope it would magically be on the other side?
My hope is that we realize that like a whole, we can impact the way that this country will go. And the way that this country might go, it might not be a welcoming environment for everyone. And when you don't feel, like you were saying, Consuelo, when you don't feel safe, it's not trying to look for the word. It's not, I will say, it's not the same for everyone. So not all of us can open the door of our house, yeah, and go and feel like we feel safe. It has happened. So that's where I'm coming from. I hope that kids get the chance to be outdoors and experience and learn from nature. Nature is the biggest encyclopedia out there. And it has so much to give us. Just remember that you just don't take. It's two ways. And if you're going to harvest, you give a gift. If you're going to harvest, think of the right amount to harvest. Never take more. And I hope my kids, what I hope for them is that they always know how important they are and that they can help someone all the time. There is always someone out there looking for a smile. And that I will never tell them, give them a smile. I hope it comes from their heart because they have seen it. We are beautiful by the color of our skin, by the way that we speak, by the way that we dress, and we all deserve to be appreciated.
Yeah. May that happen tomorrow. And for the listeners, sit in this for a long time, let it absorb into you. This is where we can come back to in that beauty of acceptance and creating belonging for each other, welcoming each other. That's what we're used to. Opening our doors, opening our hearts. You really express it in a way that's powerful, in a way that's intentional, and how easy it can be. Just putting a smile on your face is an invitation alone that you're welcoming someone. Thank you so much, Gabriela. This has been such a huge life lesson, all based on mountain biking. Who knew? Who knew that mountain biking was the power to our internal strength and self-confidence? I just love this. How would people reach out to you?
Yeah, they can find me on, I am mostly on Instagram as Gabriela Hydle. Gabriela with one L. Hydle is Hydle. You can share it. And I have a website and I have a YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for taking the time. And thank you to everyone. I just, like you said, Consuelo, we will say 12 highs and we will get one. But guess what? That one is what matters. And hopefully that one will inspire another one. So thank you. And let's keep spreading the joy.
Yes, let's keep spreading the joy. Yes. Gabriela Hydle, indigenous Mayan Guatemalan badass woman who broke free of the stereotype of shaming her indigenous roots to discover her true self in a world she never knew existed. I can totally relate to this so much, and I would love to know how many of you out there discovered later in life how you had been cut off from your roots within your own family because they felt shamed by it. The pressure from society and the colonialism put our families through so much pain and destruction, and I love learning from women like Gabriela who have embraced that pain in order to heal and are now intentionally creating community to embrace anyone feeling othered. So now get ready for the last week of Hispanic Heritage Month. Even though every single week we celebrate our heritage here, next week we host an award-winning author, an advocate for immigrant rights, and social entrepreneur before the word was even coined. Rudy Ruiz, proudly Mexican-American, born and raised along the U.S.-Mexico border, living in Matamoros, Mexico for impactful parts of his young life, who began advocating for immigrant communities while attending Harvard University. It was there he realized the bias that forged barriers for the Latina community nationwide. Still, it was the birth of his daughter Paloma that ignited his aha moment that changed his life to become an award-winning author, representing the Latina community in fantasy fiction with his latest published novel, The Border Between Us, a coming-of-age story of living life on the border. Why his daughter, you ask? Because it was in her eyes that Rudy discovered the truth of the Latina power to hold the family together, to forge past struggles, and to create the joy and celebration of every moment. Revel in Rudy's memories of life on the border, champion his stories of advocating for immigrant rights, and celebrate in the space representing our comunidad. Step into your truth, ladies. Ciao. We love that you have subscribed to this podcast and continue to champion women who understand the life of all things Latina. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Encuentras Your Voice podcast so you don't miss a single episode. They will automatically drop into your listening device each week. And we'd really, really appreciate if you take a moment to add to the reviews that we already have. Tell us what you like, tell us what you're hoping to hear, and we will get there. Share this with your friends and family to help us grow our comunidad, and keep following us on our social media to Encuentras Your Voice. We are so grateful to you for helping us grow this community and would love to learn of all the amazing Latinas who you know are creating the world we thrive in. So reach out to me on social media at Encuentras Your Voice, and let's keep leaning into our authenticity in pride. Help us make Encuentras Your Voice the place where you are 100% represented.